Hey, what's up? It's super nice to have you here. My name is James, and this is going to be the Artificial Intelligence course, buildwithaicourse.com. So my name is James. I've been a designer for more than 10 years, primarily working with startups, VCs, tech companies, and a ton of different people and companies like that. I've always been a designer. I've never been able to code, even though my university lecturers tried to teach me. I always struggled, and I always had to rely on developers and software engineers to be able to build any of my ideas. Fortunately, we're now at a point where AI is actually able to help with that, and so that's what this course is about. I couldn't code at all for almost 10 years, probably more than 10 years. And now I don't rely on developers at all. I can build apps, I can build websites, I can build small tools for myself, I can automate things, and that's all using artificial intelligence. In my lifetime, it's been the biggest technology change, and it's happened in the last kind of 9 months. So I'm really excited to show you some of what it can do, and I hope it can help you. I hope it can help you build your ideas. I hope it can help you future-proof your career. Personally, I think it's one of the most beneficial things that's out there, and I think a lot of people are really not appreciating what it can do. So the fact that you're here, you're already ahead of the game. You're already kind of understanding what AI can do, and I hope that this course will help you. Throughout the course, I'm available. I can answer any questions. I'm excited to see how I can help. I'm excited to hear what your ideas are, and I'd love to be able to help you build it as well. So please talk to me, please reach out to me, ask questions. I would love to be able to help as much as possible. So without further ado, let's push in a little bit. So this course primarily is for anyone. It's for people who are feeling stuck in their careers, people who want a career change. AI is enabling people to really change their whole career and do something new. It's for people who couldn't code but always wanted to and want to be able to be assisted by AI to do that. This course is for non-technical founders, so people who are starting companies. Maybe you've got a technical co-founder who can code, but you yourself haven't got any experience. This course is going to be perfect for you. It's going to help you turn from a non-technical founder who relies on other people to someone who's able to build MVPs and small mock-up tools and things like that yourself, small products that you can actually release, get feedback on, and someone who's just useful for being able to speak to developers and speak to the people that you're hiring. Having some idea of what's possible to build and how to build it will really help you out in conversations. So I myself have gone from someone who always cast myself as a non-technical co-founder to someone who is definitely now at least semi-technical. And I think it is really going to help me going forward. I know, especially from my background in venture capital, that investors really do appreciate someone who is able to code and build things. And so I think the stuff that you'll learn on here will definitely push you towards that. One of the craziest things about the kind of world that we're living in right now is that these AI tools never existed before, and the speed that they not only are being improved at, but being released and built is honestly incredible. When I first started building this course was maybe 6 weeks ago, and there's tools that have been released in the last 2 weeks that even make this whole thing even easier. So I've had to revise the material a little bit and talk about some new tools, but this is the crazy thing, is what took me initially kind of 6 or 7 months of like a lot of research and experimentation to do. Hopefully, I'll be able to help you do that in a month or less, depending how much work you put in. Maybe even you could probably do it in 2 weeks. And the whole point of this is I want to show you the things that I've built. I want to show you how I've built them. I want to build things together, and I want to show you how you can do it yourself as well. So a while ago, we did a live session. We had a bunch of people in there, around about 45, 50 people. And in that kind of 1 hour session, there was already people building their own apps, testing things out, having literally in 10 kind of minutes, fully working apps they were able to use and test out. So we'll start off small. I'll start off basic, and then we'll gradually build up. And by the end, hopefully you'll be in the same place as me, building web apps, connecting them to databases, connecting them to AI APIs. So you're using ChatGPT and things to help you build AI apps, and maybe even building apps for Mac or iPhone and submitting them to the App Store. So it's the process we're going to go through, and yeah, I'm excited about it. So without further ado, let's jump in. So these are the slides that I spoke about in my original kind of free workshop I did. I'm going to walk you through these, and then we're going to dive in and do some proper stuff. So this class is called An Introduction to Using Artificial Intelligence to Build and Code Digital Products. And some of the tools that we're going to look at is ChatGPT, which you probably already know, Claude, Replit, and Cursor. These kind of increase in complexity as well, and there's a bunch more tools that we'll cover. So if there's one that you are looking for and it's not on this list, don't worry, we're going to cover all of it, I promise. And ChatGPT and Claude is kind of really the best place to start. It's very user-friendly, it's very basic, but you can still do some nice stuff. And then as you build up, Replit is a bit more complex, and then Cursor is the tools that really have become the industry standard almost for building apps and tools. So let's have a look. So like I said, my name is James. I've been running a design studio called October. That's what I do primarily. That's my day-to-day work. It's a design and branding studio for startups and for VCs, for venture capital. But we work with tons of people. We work with government agencies. We work with food and beverage companies, tons. And so what we do really is helping them build best-in-class products from a design-first point of view. We've helped them raise probably closer to 200 million in venture capital investment so far. And our clients have been around the world. So we've had clients in the UAE, in the US, in South America, and a lot around Europe and London, where I was based. Right now, as you can see on here, I'm based in Lisbon. I moved to Lisbon in February, and that's where I am right now. So the whole point of me giving this class really is I found a lot of content online when I was searching for this stuff to be very developer heavy, very dry, very boring, and a lot of it very technical as well. Sorry, there's a fly flying around. And what I wanted to do is be able to use my background in design to be able to actually design nicer content and explain stuff in a more clear and easy to understand way. And hopefully a way that's a bit more engaging than very heavy YouTube tutorials that are very technical and getting into the code. I'm going to try and keep us out of that as much as possible. Although we will, especially towards the later parts of the course, we will dive into code, and by the end you will be more than familiar with it. So don't worry about that at all. Like I said as well, the fact that I was never an expert in coding, I think really is the most interesting part about this course. I was very, very anti pushing myself into learning to code. I wanted to do it, but I always struggled, and so I really struggled to actually be able to find the time or find the motivation almost to do it. This kind of ability to do this thing using AI has completely changed that, and now it's one of the things I'm most passionate about, is being able to show people that even without any knowledge of coding, you can really build some amazing tools. At the moment, I'm kind of building like 2 or 3 things a week, so it's kind of crazy. So this is me. This is kind of what we're going to cover. So everything from very small kind of mini micro apps using Claude, which is one of the AI tools. These are things that live in the browser. They live in Chrome or wherever you're using it, and they work. They have functionality, and they look like apps. And you can really tailor them to what you need, but they don't connect to anything external. They don't connect to databases. They don't connect to the internet really, and that's fine for a lot of small apps, but as you start needing more things, it gets a bit more complex, and that's when you need to kind of move to another tool. We'll also be building things like Chrome extensions, which again previously could have been quite difficult. The first Chrome extension I built took me a few hours to build, and then literally a couple of weeks later, I was able to build them in kind of less than 15 minutes. So that really was kind of like where I understood how powerful this stuff was. And this is really the process that I went through as well, was building apps with Claude, building with Chrome extensions. And then this is a tool called Framer. So this is what I use to build websites for clients nowadays. And I used it a lot for my own personal projects as well. What you can do with Framer, and actually like a lot of website building in general, is build kind of website components or interactive components, things you want to do. I've got some examples I can show you as well. In fact, I just used one today. Then building up to web apps, which is what I do primarily now, is web apps, and like you see at the end, apps using APIs, and then some iPhone and Mac apps in the middle, which I've also built a few, so I'll show you that. But this is the best process to go through. This is the process I went through. It's gradually increasing the complexity, and that leads you to kind of, at each step, you understand what you're doing, you understand what you've built so far, without diving in at the deep end and thinking, oh, I need to build the next Google, I need to build the next Uber, or something like this, which I think will probably kind of bury you a little bit. The best way of doing it, I believe, is kind of building up the complexity like this. Mini apps in Claude. So this is what Claude looks like. It's very user-friendly. You can reach it by just going to claude.ai, and Claude's a tool that's owned by a company called Anthropic, who are a huge AI company. They've actually just received some investment from Amazon, which was around $4 billion. So they have some money. They're definitely putting it to good use because they have what is probably the best AI model at the moment. ChatGPT is the one that you're probably most familiar with, and they have a bunch of different models and tools that you can use. But Claude, they have the best one kind of overall, I think. And this is the one that primarily people use for coding and building things. So when I talk about models, there's essentially a cost to all AI messages and things that you send. And that's kind of priced up in terms of tokens. A lot of different AI tools price tokens differently. And so it's kind of hard to know, and it's not really kind of one message equals one token. It's more done on the characters that are in the message, including things like spaces and punctuation, how long it is, whether or not you include images or videos and things like that as well. So it really varies. And the good thing about these tools is that they are relatively cheap still for what you need. Almost all the tools here, I believe it's all of them actually, but I'll double check, do have a free plan. And normally there's some limitations around that, but even the paid versions are relatively cheap. I believe Claude is around $15. ChatGPT, I think, is around $20 a month. And I will definitely make sure to give you my honest opinion on which ones I think are worth it, which ones I think are not that worth it. And regardless, you'll be able to build some stuff for sure without spending any money. So that's not a problem at all. So like I mentioned, Claude is very user-friendly. They've got an iPhone app, they've got an Android app. I believe you can use it on the web, and it's quite like a simple tool to use. It works like a chat kind of style interface, which you're probably used to. And what you can really do is build these apps, these interactive tools that you can use for different things. Earlier this year, me and my fiance Jenny went to Brazil, and for that we were able to build a trip planning app, which got weather information for us. Gave us a packing list. You can see on here we had things like local attractions and restaurants. Her home city is Sao Paulo, so we didn't need to use it that much, thank God. But the fact that we were able to build this and have it right in front of us was really cool. Recently I was with a friend talking about compound interest calculators and things like this, and he was searching for one on the internet, and just in the 5 minutes or less probably that he was searching for a good one to show me something, I whipped up Claude and opened the app. I was able to build one that was fully working, had all the functionality in the time it took him to find one himself on the internet. So it is really interesting what you can do, and I think one of the best things to do is to kind of always push yourself to be in the mindset of like, anytime you encounter a problem, anytime you think of something, rather than it be like, let me go and look at Google, or let me go and do something else, let me just deal with this problem, even to an extent. I think it's more interesting to be like, can I use AI to help me with this? Because more often than not, the answer is yes. And really the most interesting thing to me is that the more you build with it and the more that you mess around with it and test out these tools, you find what you can and can't do. And the things that you can't do, that list is getting smaller and smaller every week. And so I get to a point now where my fiance tells me that ChatGPT is my best friend or something like this, because I'm always feeding it information, feeding it questions, and giving it problems to help me work through and save me time. It does a ton of stuff, and so I think the value is huge, especially for the price. So this is one example. We built a Brazil trip planner. Let me just jump to the next slide. We also built a language app. So like I mentioned, I'm living in Lisbon, and I'm trying to learn Portuguese. And so I built this app here to help me kind of put together some Duolingo style games with some interactive kind of matching the word games there. And again, this took me 5 minutes to tell it what I want, give it some prompts of how I wanted it to talk and how I wanted it to be styled. And you can build this stuff so fast that you're almost getting to a point now where this is really a good viable option to be your primary source of answers for things. So here's some other examples. So this is actually what we're going to build together right now. I'm just going to jump into Claude and show you one thing that we can do. So bring apps and tools and things like that. One of the things that I find Claude really interesting for, and I think is a really interesting use case up front, is the idea that if you've got information, especially very dry, long PDFs or things like that, it's really easy to just drop the PDF straight into Claude and have it generate an interactive dashboard or a summary, and just kind of help you break through that information that can be kind of heavy at sometimes. It's really interesting. So let's have a look at that together right now. So if I open up Claude, this is what Claude looks like. It's in dark mode, so you can see it looks slightly different right now. And it has this kind of main chat interface in the middle. What I can do is I actually used ChatGPT earlier to generate kind of a fake blood test report. And the reason I had this idea is that we actually used this with my fiance earlier this year, where she got some blood test results. We got it back. It said what her results were, but we didn't really know much more than that. We didn't know what was kind of really good, what was bad, what we could do to improve it. And so this is one perfect example of where a day-to-day problem that comes out of nowhere, and you think, can I use AI to improve this? So what we can do is we can just grab this blood test result, drag it into Claude, and then I can give it a message like, please, can you generate a beautiful interactive dashboard based on this blood test PDF to help me understand the results and give me some indication of what is good or bad and what I need to do next. Give me a description of what each part means and what it affects. Let's just start with that. So this is the interesting thing. When you're writing these prompts, and a message to an AI is called a prompt, because you're kind of prompting it to do something. When you write the stuff out, you don't need to have everything in the first go. You can just fire something at it as basic as you want and then build up over time. The longer that you do the stuff, you work out what kind of things you need to give it information to get it going a bit further. But you definitely don't have to have it all in one go. So let's start with this and we'll see how it gets on. So let's send that. And it doesn't take long. These things are pretty quick. So as you can see, it's already going ahead and starting building it. So what you're going to see here is you're going to see it start writing code. And this may look kind of scary. It may look kind of complex, but this is not something that we need to interact with at all. As you can see here, my hands are up. I'm not typing, I'm not coding anything, but it's going ahead and building it. And so with Claude, one of the things that is quite nice is it does have this feature on the side, which they call artifacts, where as you're building, as the AI is building, you've got your messages on the left, but you can see it building this interactive tool on the right. And we'll be able to interact with this in a second. So here we go. So straight away, we've got our little blood test dashboard. And if I just pull up the one that we had here, you can see that this is pretty ugly. I just got ChatGPT to generate it for me. So this is all fake. But all of this stuff, I don't really know what this means. It says it's normal, but I don't really know much more than that. And so if I jump back into Claude, what you can see here is, okay, the hemoglobin is normal. This is the range, and it tells us that this one is borderline high. Let's go down so you can see it here. Let's say for each individual panel, tell me what I can do to improve. Give me some charts and make them interactive, and give me some recommendations. Also, I don't like the colors, so please make it more beautiful. Let's go with that. So this is what I mean by being able to do it iteratively. So it showed something up, it was kind of good, but maybe it's not exactly what we want. And as you can see, now that it's typing, we've just asked it to do some charts. So you can see here, right at the top, it had a message there saying it was importing a pie chart. So Interested to see how that looks. Maybe it looks good, maybe it looks ugly, but we can keep on tweaking it, we can keep improving it. And it's very quick. But straight away you can see that took us a couple of minutes, and we already had something that was a bit nicer to read than just a blank PDF. And so this is even like a good example of how, if you're a business that gives reports, or you even have to write reports, or you have to deal with reports at work, boring PDFs and things like that, you can either build stuff for yourself to help you understand the information, or if you're giving reports to customers and things like that, or to even your managers and things like that, you can generate things that are nicer to look at, a bit easier to understand. And I think that's something that is quite crazy. Here you go. So you see the tweak up the colors a little bit. And it's given us a bit more information. Let's see. Again, here we go. So we've got our chart, and it's a bit more interactive. We can check this out, the hemoglobin now. And then here we go. This is what it includes. So iron-rich foods. That's cool. And so there you go. We can see a little app here. Let's say split the different parts into tabs. And we'll leave this one for a second in a moment. But as you can see, like, this is a really quick way of using Claude to build something that we maybe haven't used before. So in fact, let's just jump into a new one right now. Let's say I'm going on a trip to London. Build me a travel planner app, which has, let's say, a packing list that I can cross off, and a local weather. Add some recommendations in another tab. So let's try this. And so once again, it's going to jump straight into it. It's going to start coding. And once again, we're not even going to have to deal with any of that code. So this is really good. But one of the things that's really nice is that if you get to a point where you actually are familiar with code and you're happy to work with it, you can download the code files from here and open them in a new window. You can drag them into a code editor, and you can actually really start kind of improving this, building new features and things like that. And that's where you actually can start getting things like access to databases or connecting it to different tools. Here you go. So it's already built that. Let's check off some stuff from our list. We've got our Oyster card. That's good. We've got the local weather, and we've got a recommendation. So here you go. You've got a few different bits in there. But like I mentioned before, the things that are built in Claude that currently at least don't have access to the internet really at all. And so although it says local weather here, this is probably mock data. It's currently the 30th of November. And as far as I know, it's not 18 degrees in London. It's pretty rare for November. So I don't think this is accurate. And so this is one of the things where you can build apps and you can build like small tools and things like that help you out. But if you start needing to access the internet, or dealing with databases, or you want to sign in or payments and things like that, you're kind of probably going to hit a brick wall with Claude, and it's kind of going to be a bit too basic for that. But that's fine. That's not a problem at all. So let's just take this away and we will jump back into the slides. Let's keep going. So this is my belief that the future of work really involves smaller teams. And so what I believe is that instead of having these large teams in companies, you're going to get smaller and smaller teams where each person is kind of supercharged by AI to do what currently 3 to 5 people can do by themselves. I've seen it in companies that I've worked with where even in projects that I've been involved in over the last couple of months, where previously they would want a developer and a designer. I'm doing all that by myself now. I can do the building, I can do the development. And so that straight away is a good example of where they've been able to reduce who's working on a project by half just by having one person who's kind of supercharged by AI working on it. So I definitely also think that being a generalist is going to help. I think being someone who is able to touch lots of different areas, but has enough knowledge that you're able to use AI to kind of help you navigate it, I think is going to be super powerful, rather than being someone who is very, very specific. I think it's going to give you the most space to be able to interact with different projects, deal with different companies, and actually kind of find where you fit in the new kind of like AI supercharged world with in terms of jobs and roles and things like that. I definitely think being a generalist is going to help. And so building solutions for problems as you need them, so as they pop up for you or for the business, I think is going to be like a hugely powerful skill. And really the best way to do that is to mess around with it in your own time, mess around outside of work, which is probably what you're doing if you're reading this course. But I think it's a really interesting topic where whether it being a specialist or being a generalist is going to help. I think going forward with AI, I think my intuition says that being a generalist is probably going to help. And so here I've got some examples and the kind of messages that you can have when you first speak to AI. So maybe you have got ChatGPT, maybe you've got Claude or even something more complex, but you're not sure where to even start. And I would say, as you can see at the bottom, if you have an idea, just throw a message out there and see where it takes you. There's no problems. The AI never gets tired, which is great. It's never fed up unless you ask it to be fed up. You can just keep firing answers at it and firing questions and ideas and things and just see where it goes. And so if you're not sure exactly what to say, then I think you can do it. But there's a few use cases in here, one exactly that we've already checked out. So for example, you may remember the iPhone game Flappy Bird from a few years ago. It was huge when it came out, but now you could build something like that, maybe at least a basic version in not long at all. And you could even build this in Claude. So you could send it a message like, make a simple Flappy Bird style game for me to play called Peter's Paradise about a grey cat. My grey cat Peter is not here right now. He's downstairs sleeping probably, but I could build a game based around him and his life very easily, and it would take me less than 10 minutes to do it. In fact, I already did it before. When it comes out, or when I asked it to do it, it was a bit blocky and a little bit basic and ugly. So over time I said, make the cat more detailed, add some clouds in the background, and kind of base the design on our balcony out here just behind me. And so you can really do some nice stuff with it and just kind of keep pushing. So here's an example where you can build games. Up in the right hand side, we've got a calendar on the wall over here to my right, and we have everything written down. It's a glass calendar, so it's all written by hand. I didn't want to have to add all of that manually to my calendar, so I just took a photo of it and I said to ChatGPT, here's a photo of my nephew's school calendar. Please turn it into a .ics calendar file and attach the image, as you can see there. So it did it. It generated the calendar file. I was able to just airdrop it from my laptop onto my phone, open it, and then straight away everything that was on the calendar was straight in my phone calendar. So things like this, that it's not a huge task. It's nothing that's like a really, really big deal, but that would have taken me 10-15 minutes. I didn't really want to do it, but doing this, it took me 20 seconds probably. And so I think if you imagine in one moment, saving 15-20 minutes is kind of cool anyway. But if you think about that over the course of the next 10 years of your life, how many of these small tasks are we going to be able to improve? And kind of even just not even have to think about or deal with, I think is so interesting. Another one here we've already looked at, build me an interactive dashboard with my blood test results, give me insights and recommendations, and then I just attach the PDF. That's one that we just checked out ourselves, and I did it in Claude. You could do it in ChatGPT as well, I'm sure, and it will probably give you some really nice results. I also built one for actually doing LinkedIn posts. So the way that I first started doing this like AI course came from just some LinkedIn posts, and I didn't post on LinkedIn that often, and so I wrote out this post and I thought it was pretty good. I asked Claude to actually build a web app for me where I can just paste in all of my LinkedIn kind of post, article, whatever, and it would analyze it, rate it on some different benchmarks for me, how engaging it was, all this kind of stuff, and give me a rating out of 100. So that's another way of where I had a small thing I needed to do, but I could have just posted it and maybe it was kind of boring or I didn't use that many nice words. And by doing this, I was actually able to get AI to help me and really tell me how I can improve my stuff. And after a few rounds, I felt like it was pretty good. And fortunately, I got some good responses, which is why I'm here talking to you today. You can ask it to do 3D visualizations. So I have a friend who works for a big medical company that does respirator machines. And I could ask it to build me a 3D visualization that's interactive, that lets me spin it around and look at the different angles and take the machine apart. I can ask it to do all that, which is crazy. And that's something that, again, having these complex tools and stuff, or complex ideas that before you would have had to read books or watch videos and stuff to do, now you can actually build something interactive. And for myself especially, I'm a very interactive learner. I like to build things and mess around with things to learn how they work. And being able to do stuff like this is something that I wish I had when I was at school, or even at university. Probably would have helped me learn to code faster for sure. And I think I really feel like at the moment, there's no limit really to what I can learn using these tools, because it makes it so easy to learn something. I'm learning to code in multiple languages. I'm learning to speak multiple languages. I'm learning Portuguese at the moment, from Brazil, but I'm also learning Portuguese from Portugal. And these are things that previously I would have had to dedicate a lot of time to doing individually, but now I'm able to just learn them all at the same time in parallel, and actually in a way that's interesting as well. Let's have a look here. So here's one example of where I went through the process to building a Chrome extension. And as a designer, I'm constantly going to websites, finding inspiration, and I wanted to take high resolution screenshots of the web page that I can bring into my design tool and start kind of messing around with and breaking apart. So what I wanted to do was go into AI. So I actually believe I used ChatGPT for this. And I said, can you build me a Chrome extension that lets me take a high-res screenshot of the current page and save it to my downloads in one click? So it thought about it for a couple of seconds, and then straight away it started building the file structure, giving me the code. And genuinely 8 to 10 minutes later, I had a working Chrome extension that was doing exactly what I needed to do. The funny thing is, when I first started messing around with AI, this was 6 or 7 months ago, maybe slightly more, I would ask it to do this, and it would write the code, and the code would have some errors in, and I'd have to go a bit back and forth, and I could still get there. And in maybe 45 minutes or an hour, I was able to build a Chrome extension that worked and did what I needed it to do. But literally a few weeks later, I got that from 45 minutes down to 10, 15 minutes. And then I got it from 15 minutes down to 10 minutes or to 8 minutes. And now, over time, the AI makes less and less mistakes, and it understands what it's doing. And at this point, when I asked it to write the code, I would have to copy the code from one place and paste it into another. Now, even those kind of elements have been removed. Now you can just ask it, build all of the code features for me, upload it somewhere and test it, and all of that is done for you. So it is really crazy the progress that's being made. Here's another one that I worked on, and I'll show you it in just a second. So like I said, I'm learning Portuguese. This went from the idea of, okay, how about every time I open a new tab on Chrome, maybe it can show me a new Portuguese word. And so every time I go to open a new tab, I'm learning already. And just kind of by that kind of repeated exposure, I'd be able to see new Portuguese words. And so if I click on this, it will open up. And after a couple of seconds of loading, you can see it's giving me the word lose, which funny enough, I've got shining right in my eyes right now. And I had some features in here, so I can flick through different words. I can favorite it. It gives me a progress bar with the amount of words learned, current streak. I'm not doing too good, as you can see. I think it must be a bit broken. And then some features down here on the side. And so this is something that is super easy to build. If I open up a new tab, let's see if it gives me a new word. Here you go, saudade. So straight away, you can see that how my problem that I was trying to solve is I'm learning Portuguese, and now I'm looking at what's the easiest way to do it. I built that small app using Claude on my phone to help me match the words. Now I've got a Portuguese word of the day every time I open a new tab. There's loads of different ways that you can do it, and so it is really interesting to think that these problems that previously were long or time consuming or even expensive now are none of those things, which is really interesting. Let's have another look. So as you can see here, this is a good example, kind of how I like to think about breaking down the apps and the projects that I work on, rather than thinking of it as one entire app or one entire project, which you can do sometimes, especially if it's something that's more on the basic side. Now it's actually really easy to be able to break it into different sections and work on each section individually, especially when building web apps and things like that. This is kind of how it works a lot of the time. You have your main app, and it pulls in all of the different segments. So this sidebar exists as its own kind of code file. Then you've got this progress bar and controls area at the bottom. That's also another file. And then you've got this main content area. All of those are different code files dealing with different things. maybe this content from ChatGPT area, that's the one that's connected to ChatGPT's API, and I'll cover APIs again in a minute, and explain what that is. But that one actually reaches out and connects to ChatGPT's API to find these words and display it how we want. But the sidebar doesn't need to do that, and so breaking them up into different files keeps the files smaller, makes the app run a bit faster, and it means it's easier to build as well. So if you make some changes and it actually breaks something, it's a lot easier to break a little part of it rather than destroy the whole app, which, believe me, I've done also many times. So yeah, this is how this one works. It was a very, very quick one to build, and it's something that I always needed, I think, and so it's nice to be able to build tools that can solve personal problems. Here we go. So some of the apps I've showed you so far have been kind of basic, small things that solve small problems, but maybe that's not where you want to stop. Maybe you want to go ahead and build bigger things. And this is where I think you should aim as well, because once you're able to build things at this level, it opens up tons of possibilities, both for yourself, for your business. I was just hired recently to work on building an AI app for a book website. And this is something that, like I mentioned before, would have taken a developer and a designer, maybe a project manager. Now AI is my project manager, AI is my developer, and fortunately I get to still be the designer. But now, rather than designing all in a design tool, I'm able to kind of design as I build, which is really nice, and it speeds up the whole process. And so this is one app that I built. I was working with a company who needed to design some adverts for Instagram for their business, and one of the styles that they were using was an iPhone notification, basically. They had some templates on Canva, but they were kind of ugly, kind of basic. They didn't look that good. In fact, they looked extremely bad and pretty fake. And so I really quickly built a Mac app, and I built an iPhone app to use on the go, which lets them create kind of photorealistic, real iOS notifications, basically, and lets you upload a different photo, change the color scheme to make it dark mode or light mode. You can change the text, change the app name, change when you received it, and then be able to just either copy it or save it to your camera. So you can then paste it into an advert or anything like this. And so this is an app where it's a bit more complex, as you can see, and it's hopefully you agree, it's a bit more beautiful, a little bit nicer to look at and use as well. And even has some features that you can see here, like being able to sign in using Apple, sign in using Face ID. And these are things that now, again, you don't need to rely on a developer to do. You can build this yourself. And this one, I built the majority of the app in a couple of days. I then broke it very quickly, and so it took me a few days to fix. But this is an example of where I was coding something that was more complex than I was able to do at the time, and so I run into a problem. But then I went back to AI and I gave it the error messages. I said to it, I've broken the app, what do I do now? And then it said, okay, now you need to connect it to GitHub. And I can cover GitHub again in another video, but GitHub is basically a way of version controlling your app. So every time you make a big change and it's working, you do a commit, you send it to GitHub, and it saves all your code there. And if you make some problems by changing some code and it kind of breaks the app, you can just roll it back to another version previously when it was working. So it's extremely valuable, though it was something that I didn't know at the time. And so these are things that, like I said, AI is able to tell you because it knows, and it was able to say, yeah, you've broken it because of this reason. This is what the error message is, but you want to connect your app to GitHub just to stop this from happening in the future. And so I was able to do that very quickly. One of the points that I really want to stress as well is that maybe you're looking at this and thinking, maybe I don't need these apps. Maybe this is not what I want to build. Maybe these are not the problems that I think I can solve, or even just thinking it's not that good. The best thing about AI for me is that this is the worst it's ever going to be. It's come on in leaps and bounds in just the last 18 months, especially the last 9 months. And it's only ever going to get better. It's going to get faster. It's going to be able to do more. And so one of the most valuable skills is just understanding what you can and can't do with it right now. It doesn't matter if you're not at the absolute forefront, knowing what's been released, what are the newest features. I think just being able to understand how to talk to AI, the kind of problems that you can solve right now, is going to pay dividends going forward. And I think it's one of the best uses of time is just to try building something, to try talking to AI, messing around with it. Because in a couple of years, when the tools are way better and people realize that actually their co-workers are ahead of them, or their boss needs them to do something, or they're cutting roles in a company because they're able to downsize because they've got people using AI, I think by then it may be too late to be scrambling around trying to learn how to use it. Whereas if you put the time in now, I think it's gonna be worth a lot. This is a quote from a really good friend of mine, Joss, who, like his name, is incredibly smart. And it's really as much about getting familiar with the tools as it is as the outcome. So we're learning to ride a bike with these tools. We're not looking to win the Tour de France. And I think that's a really valuable point, that the value really right now is not just in what you can build, but it's also in understanding how to build it and how to use it. Because these tools are extremely powerful, and the more that you expose to them, the more that you mess around with them, you'll see what they can do. There's one good example where just in the last few weeks, OpenAI, who's the company that builds ChatGPT, they released a tool called Advanced Voice, and it basically is just like a two-way voice chat, and there's no latency. You can talk to it how you want about whatever topic you want. As soon as you finish talking, it replies straight away. There's no thinking time or processing, it just goes straight into it. And so I was asking it some questions about buying a house and how good of an investment it was, and what I was looking at. And it broke down all of the bits to me and told me all the information, but was still kind of complex. I didn't understand it fully. So I asked it to explain it again to me, but even more simply. And then I asked it to do it even more simply than that. And then just as a test, I said to it, okay, now can you do it all in Spanish? And it just did the whole thing, speaking in Spanish fluently, just went straight into it. And then I said, can you do it in English, but using a Scottish accent? And then it switched into doing that. And it does it in real time. There's no delay. And so it's really interesting. I showed it to my dad. I showed it to some of my friends as well. And knowing how powerful these tools are means that then later on, when I have a client or someone says to me, we want to build an app and it's for old people, so we don't want them to be able to have to send text messages. We want them just to be able to speak to the app. I already know that, okay, we can use ChatGPT's advanced voice API. We can just plug that straight in and build an app to do that. So knowing how to use these tools is so valuable. I think it's really is well worth your time. So currently, when you're looking at building an app or building a tool, especially if you're outside the world of tech and investment, the cost to build a good app for most people is really just too high. And I mean that in terms of time, but also in terms of money as well. You might spend months and potentially even years trying to build an app and not really making much progress, especially if you don't have the kind of skills of design or any kind of software engineering or development. The cost is way too high, and especially, like I said, the time cost. If you spend a year doing it and at the end of that nobody wants to download it, you've wasted a whole year building something that nobody wants. And so currently the cost is way too high for most people to be able to build something. But with AI, that cost comes way down to effectively zero. The ability to build their own idea is open to anyone. So this could be when I did my live class a few weeks ago. I had doctors on the course, on the class, sorry. I had people working in the NHS, people who were marketers. I had people from supermarkets, a huge range of people who would never normally be building apps, would never even probably think that they have the ability to build their ideas, but people who had ideas nonetheless, and their ideas are extremely valuable. One of the things that interests me the most is how can anyone build their ideas? And so if you're a nurse working in a hospital, or you are an Uber driver, or you're someone who works in a supermarket, you'll be exposed to very unique problems in those situations that probably are invisible to most people. And so now that you're able to not only see that problem, but you know how to fix it, and now you've got the ability to fix it as well and solve it for not just yourself, but maybe many people, is extremely valuable. I think it's going to change a lot of people's lives and a lot of people's careers. So as the value of the tech itself goes down, and I mean value in terms of cost almost, the value of things like the design, the distribution of the app and the attention goes up. And what I mean by that is, if there's a million new apps coming out every week, which could well be the case, because anyone is able to build stuff and just release it, the things that become really valuable and kind of a unique selling point are things like a really beautiful design or something that's really easy to use. And then the distribution of it. So if you're able to effectively market that app to people, get people using it, get it in front of the right audience, that's again extremely valuable. And then attention as well. So we live in a time where content creators, people on TikTok and things like that, are building huge audiences. The value of, and they're already valuable to brands, but now those people building their own products, their own services, but they've already captured an audience and they know exactly how to market to them because they've already got the reach, is going to be extremely valuable. This is another good quote that I found on Twitter from this guy Yash. So AI coding tools are reaching a kind of YouTube moment where for a while, creating videos and putting them online, in as online as they were at that point, was really only available to kind of Hollywood companies and things like that with huge budgets. Once YouTube was available and people were able to host a video completely for free, post it online, and it was be able to viewable all around the world, this is what it means by a YouTube moment, where anyone is able to build and launch free apps with free hosting, no technical barriers. This shift will probably make programming as widely available and as impactful as online video creation. And nowadays, almost everyone is able to edit videos. Everyone knows how to take videos, shoot them on their phone, edit them on their phone, post them on their phone, and have it available online immediately. We're reaching that point with apps as well, and we're really not far away from that. So I'm going to show you this, and then I'm going to show you a couple of examples of some stuff I built recently, because I think it will help explain the point, and I hope it will give you some inspiration as well for what's to come. So earlier I talked about APIs. So an API is basically a way that any kind of service lets you interact with their service. And so if you are, let's say, you open a new app and you go to sign in and you have to sign up using an email and a password, but actually you see a button that says log in with Google. That's what they're doing. So they're using Google's login API there to mean that you don't have to bother with an email and a password, and they also don't have to mess around with having a database storing all of your information. What they get is they get to use what Google have already built and what you're already familiar with, connect it to their app, and then let you log straight in. So here's a few examples of some APIs that are quite useful. ChatGPT, obviously. So if you're building a chat app and you want someone to be able to talk and get messages back, you can use the ChatGPT API, and it's extremely easy to set up. It's really just, well, it used to be that you had to copy the code and paste it in and things. Now it's just saying to your coding tool, integrate the ChatGPT API, and then it's pretty much done for you. So it's getting easier every month. Firebase is one, again, I believe it's by Google for databases. And then Stripe is a really famous payments company, and it makes it really easy for you to integrate payments or purchasing to your app as well. And so here's an example over here on the left where you can see that I have my profile picture in the top left corner. If I wanted to do that, I would use Google's login authentication API. In the middle, I've got a button here to upgrade to Plus. If I wanted to do that, I would use Stripe. And then for this main kind of chat area, I would use ChatGPT. And so as I send it messages, it sends that out to ChatGPT. ChatGPT writes it and then sends it back. And then I basically get to see the response. And so it's really easy to build stuff with these features. And before, this is something that, as someone who was previously kind of fully non-technical, I just wouldn't have been able to do. But now I'm fortunately able to do it. So enough talking the slides for a minute. I'm going to show you some things that I've built, which will hopefully give you some ideas. So firstly, here's a couple right here. And so here's some examples of apps that I built, which were pretty quick. I'm just going to refresh this one. And so this one was an app for like I mentioned before, it was a book selling website where you'd be able to ask the AI a question and it will go and do some research for you and come back. So as you can see, I asked it for fantasy books for age 9 to 12. It gave me a nice response, and then it found some books as well. So it gave me a bit of information: the title, the author, age range, price, everything, the description. Finds the rating. It gives me a Waterstones link, and it gave me a few different options here. So this is an example of where not only previously was I able to design the interface and how it looks and everything, which was great, but I still had to rely on a developer or someone to build it for me. Now I'm able to pair both of those skills together, and even if you don't have the skills to design an app at the moment, if you haven't got that background, there's other tools coming out like V0 by a company called Vercel, which it almost does the design for you. You say to it, design me like a book chat app that lets me search for books, and it will design it. And then you, like we did on Claude, you just keep firing messages away, asking it questions, and gradually improving it and iterating on it. So that's the kind of thing that you can do now. On the left, you can see this is a small app that I built for myself. I built this in literally a couple of days, and it kind of works a little bit like TikTok, but for Rightmove or Zoopla. So it finds house information for you and presents it in this nice card. The information, the houses it's found on here at the moment is kind of mock data, but it's very easy to connect it to real data. But as you can see, I've got a nice kind of carousel here. It presents all the information in this card, and then I can swipe and it will automatically snap. So let's just refresh so it looks a bit nicer, and it will show these cards. It automatically snaps, a little bit like TikTok. And then I can add some nice things like some filters. Can do that. I can add a small visualization showing how it works. And then I even have things like being able to sign in with Google, like I mentioned. So this time I'm using an authentication API called Claude, and it's extremely easy to set up, and I can do some nice bits and pieces. So you can bookmark some properties and things like that. So these are just a couple of examples of small apps that I built, which previously, again, I wouldn't have been able to do, but they didn't take long at all. And so let's just close this one down, and I'll show you this one. So getting married soon, and I wanted to build a wedding budget calculator, so we know how much we have to spend or save, every month, and how much we're going to split, what we've still got to pay, and then I can work out kind of how much I need to do, how much we have still to save, and then also at which point in the year we're likely to reach our goals. So if I increase this, our monthly contribution, and let's give me a bit more, then I'll see that we should reach that point almost around July 2025. And so this was an app that I built again in a couple of minutes to fix my problem. It may not be relevant to everyone because it's tailored to my situation, my wedding, but that's almost an even more amazing point about it, is that you don't have to just build tools that are relevant to everyone. You can build stuff that is just for you, just for your situation, solves a problem just for you, and that's almost even better. So yeah, a couple of examples there for you. Another example, like I mentioned before, I'm using a tool called Framer to build websites. This is one that I'm building right now, and I have this design, this branding, which is quite curly and has these nice shapes. And I wanted to build a small kind of dividing section that had like a nice line, but I was able to tweak all these settings. So if I want the height to be more wavy or less wavy, and if I want to change the color, or I wanted to increase the length of the lines, I wanted to be able to do all of that super easy. And so normally I would have to go on the internet, search for this line component that already exists. And if it doesn't exist, then I'm done. I can't do it. I need to find something else. But this time I went into Claude and I just said, I want to build this for Framer. I want to be able to have all of these different controls. I even said to it, add some extra controls that you think are going to be valuable. And it gave me all of the code. I can show you right over here. It gave me all the code, and I just pasted it in, saved it, have all of these different settings, and really I don't know what most of this code does from looking at it. But if I come back now, you can see that I have it here, have all my interactive elements here, everything that I could need, which is super helpful. And so here's an example where if I'm building a website or something like that, not only am I building actual apps, but now I'm able to build components for my website, which means that if I'm dealing with clients or I'm building a website for my own tool, now I'm able to really customize it to exactly what I want. And this is quite a basic one, using AI to build these small code components that make wavy lines. That's quite basic, but this could be anything. And there's really no limit to what you can build now, what you can tie in with APIs. And it's really, really easy to build this stuff. This one only took me less than 10 minutes probably. So let's close Framer and we'll jump back into the slides. And so, like I mentioned earlier, as you're building stuff using Claude or ChatGPT, you'll reach a point where you're kind of running into problems where you actually start wanting to access these APIs or access databases or access AI APIs and things like that. And you figure that Claude's really not getting you where you want anymore. It's doing the code and it's writing good code, but you want to take it to the next level. And so there's a really good tool for doing this, which is called Replit. And as you can see, it's a little bit more technical. In fact, it's quite a lot more technical, but it's still very easy to use. And it lets you do all of those things. So you have your code on the left, you've got your preview window on the right. So like we had it on Claude, as it was writing the code, you could see it live on the right hand side. And as you were asking it to make changes, it would automatically update that live for you. Replit really works in the same way, although now if you can see in the top right corner, you have a button called deploy, which actually lets you publish it to the internet. And so you can start giving that link to people, letting your friends go and check it out, letting them use the app. And so if you have a tool, so when I was looking to propose to my girlfriend, I was looking for a diamond for an engagement ring. I built a small app that would let me put in all of the measurements of the diamond I was looking at, and it would automatically show it on the page in the real size, life size on my screen. And it helped me decide. And so that's something that was useful for me, fixed a problem for me, but there's a good chance that other people would find it useful as well. And so using Replit, I would be really easily able to deploy it, give people access to it, attach it to a domain. So I could buy like ringsizerapp.com, attach it to that domain and make it available for people to use. And so that's where Replit is kind of the next level from Claude. As you can see here, I have this small out of office app that I was building as a bit of a test. I built this in live in the class with everyone. So one of the things that I think is the biggest point about AI that I want to stress really is that putting this technology in the hands of everyday people and really giving them the freedom to create stuff is going to make some insane opportunities, both for people, but also for companies as well. I think the companies that don't acknowledge this or try to ban their staff from using it, and I've seen a few companies do that, where they don't want their staff using AI, they're going to get left behind by much smaller teams who are much more agile, much more open to this idea. And I'm really interested in how companies actually empower people to build things with AI as well. So I want to see companies that are saying to their staff, if you build an app and it fixes a problem for you and it solves us, it saves us some money, we will pay you for it, or we'll buy it off you, or something like this. I can definitely see that being the case going forward. And I've already started to see it in some of the companies I've been working with. So this is the end of the slides. This is really the end of the first class. And I'm going to be putting together a community, as you can see on this slide. So everyone will be able to talk to each other. You'll be able to ask me, show me what you're building, all of that kind of stuff. And I'll be able to put in updates as well. So as there is more news, as new tools come out, new products, I'll be able to add those in there for you as well. So I hope you've enjoyed this first class. In the next class, we're going to dive straight into actually building some things. And I'm really going to start showing you tools, show you how to improve. And I hope you found it useful. So thank you for joining for the first class, and I will speak to you in the next one. Ciao.